freedom to speak is not freedom from consequences,
right?
Especially in the realm of the free market.
It's like people are trying to paint Charlie Kirk as a racist, as a whatever. No. If you take 15 minutes right now and go online, you can watch him talking with transgender students and furries. He's trying to win them over. He's being gentle and kind and patient. Okay, well, this one's going to be fun. We're going to poke the bear. We're going to watch a clip from Jimmy Kimmel and then talk about should have he been canceled, held accountable, fired, talk about cancel culture versus accountability, talk about free speech, talk about what happens when you take someone out of context, slander, smear, characterize, make a character out of their person that isn't accurate. It's a conversation that's happened nationwide. I think it's important, from bar rooms to office spaces to HR rooms to the White House. We're talking about free speech right now. That is the foundation of America. But how far can you go with free speech? There are laws in the books that say it is illegal to say some things. You can't stand up in a crowded theater and yell fire if there isn't. That's illegal because it puts people's lives in danger. We're seeing Muslims stand up and use free speech to stir violence and hatred against the West on American soil. This is crazy. So it's an important conversation to have, but we're going to use poor old Jimmy as a jumping off point just because we thought it'd be fun. So let's. I've only seen this like half of it once, so let's watch it here in his own words, and then talk about what happened.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
There it is.
Wow.
And he's gone.
Despicable.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't read much about what's happened. I just know that Disney ABC fired him, and from what I understand, as a direct result of that clip. Is that what's happened?
Yeah. Indefinite cancellation or pull the show?
Something I saw was like, so technically not like official formal firing, but suspension, like indefinite suspension or whatever.
The first step to the inevitable.
Yeah. For all
practical purposes.
Right. Fired. Yeah.
So the conversation is swirling around. We don't need to get into that because I don't know anything about it. But his ratings were sliding, and he was on the out anyways. They were looking for an opportunity. This gave it to him. I mean, in one sense, you watch what he says, and it's like that's horrific. And there's a sense I'm like, that's Jimmy on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Like he says stuff like that all the time. I mean, creates characters of people, beats him up, gets the cheap laugh, moves on. So I'm like, honestly, I watched that, and I'm like, I mean, you guys might disagree. I watched it, I'm like, that was a nothing burger for Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
Right. I mean, it was like whoa. I mean, that didn't. First time I've really seen it. That struck me as shocking for who Jimmy Kimmel is.
Predictable.
Yeah, it's predictable. And so what made it different?
Well, there are two things that stand out in my mind. Just hearing that. One is just the factual inaccuracies, right? Mm-hmm. So him saying that the shooter was MAGA. It was one of their own. Like that's been proven false. I mean, quickly after this event, the associations of the murderer were discovered by FBI investigations. And so it's like, if you're intentionally misleading or lying to an audience.
And this wasn't recorded like 2 hours after the shooting. This was recorded yesterday.
He would have had plenty of time.
We're a week out
to know the reality of like factual information based on an investigation that's done. Yeah. And so I do think it's like from a company standpoint, again, this isn't the government coming in and yanking him anywhere. He's not in jail. He's not being censored. Yeah. he's free to say that, and then ABC Disney is free to fire him if they go, hey, you know what? Actually, that's alienating our viewer. Your ratings suck as it is. If that's the case, Trump came out and said that. But regardless, it's like one thing I noted there is like, well, is that intentionally misleading people, factually being dishonest about the situation, and then the inference that it's being used to score political points, literally on the eve of someone's shocking public assassination and murder.
Yeah,
the notion of tone deafness comes to mind, right? Where it's like, wow, you really think all these people who loved this man and believed in the ideas that he was promoting and discussing peacefully on college campuses all over this nation, you really believe that it's all about scoring political points in light of literally bloodshed on a public university campus? I mean, I think personally, again, not shocking from the standpoint of what's par for Jimmy, but I personally think that's despicable. I mean,
but I think almost, I agree, but I'm also like, he's despicable every night.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was like interesting why they pulled the plug on that. What do you think?
Yeah.
I think it's my gut reaction take is that this is Disney ABC recognizing that this is an incredibly unpopular opinion, and Jimmy Kimmel to them is nothing more than talent who's supposed to make money. And now their talent is doing the opposite of what talent is supposed to do, and that is attract and win an audience.
Right.
He's saying this thing that is despicable, par for the course, because Disney ABC, depending on how the tides are turning, is varying degrees of despicable themselves.
Right.
But it's like they're just recognizing the moment that it's like, geez, Jimmy, this is a big deal. And
it felt, honestly, this is just genuine opinion, gut reaction here. It's like, it felt not like disingenuous, but it's like, was that Jimmy's fault or ABC? Like, he gets to say all sorts of crap every day, all night, and they're going to pull the plug on this one.
Right.
It feels like, not self-protective. It feels like, what's the word I'm trying looking for? Self-preservation. It's like they picked up on the cultural wind shifting.
Yeah.
And they're like, hang him.
Yeah.
It's like he was saying he's been mischaracterizing conservatives and taking cheap shots
forever
and sucker punches against other people that of different views. That's he's built a career off of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so this was, I hear that. Honestly, it's kind of weird to hear for the first time. I'm like, I was waiting to hear something like horrifically despicable. I'm like, that's Jimmy on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's interesting to consider what's happened in the cultural winds for ABC to go, that's not landing anymore. And that crossed the line because there's a widow who's getting on her video and talking to a global audience in tears about her husband being assassinated and how she's going to carry on his mission. And it's resonating with tens of millions of young women and young men. And they're like, those are our future audiences.
So it's a capitalistic decision.
Yeah,
it's the market.
I'm like, sorry,
market.
Jimmy. You got hung out to dry there a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's Disney ABC pretending, all of a sudden pretending to have a moral conscience for the sake of their own ratings.
That's exactly right. It's like Disney's like the most woke public corporation in the last 5 years of anybody.
Right.
Like cartoons, movies, characters, gloating in recorded meetings that were made public that we're going to start overtly promoting all the things that Jimmy stands for and all the things that conservatives stand against. That they've been promoting that. All of a sudden, cultural wind shift and they grow a conscience. It's like, I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's like, do I feel bad for Jimmy? No. You know what I mean? But it's rather than gloat about it, it's like, let's talk about choices and consequences. So let's get in the conversation about free speech and whether or not is there a difference between cancel culture and accountability. Adam, what do you think?
That's a good question. I think
because you posted on this a couple of days ago on X.
Yeah,
and what you said, the position you took was like there's a difference.
There's a distinction, right? Because I think cancel culture it's unwarranted in the sense that like if you're firing people for their beliefs versus the idea of it's interesting. I think I'm rethinking my position from what I posted.
Okay.
Because I actually, if I'm honest, I think there's actually more agreement alignment. I think it's actually the process of having the public discussion and debate about what is good and right and moral and decent for society. So I think that's the actual conversation that cancel culture / accountability has on what aspects of speech, how that the consequences of speech that come to our lives,
right?
And the issue really is the distinction between the government's role of censoring speech and the free market's role of companies and employers being able to fire people at will if they're not doing or saying things that they feel represent the values and virtues that they want to represent as a company,
right?
And if they're alienating customers,
right?
So it really is a function of the free market. So in one sense, I think I would personally make an argument about whether I agree or disagree with cancellations or accountability, and I think it's a social. I do think there's a societal accountability that's being brought that we could have the debate and argument over what is good and what is wrong, what is right and wrong, good or bad for those quote cancellations. Because I look at it and I go, man, when the left is pushing LGBTQ plus ideology upon people, I go, and you're not towing that line. I go, I think that's a completely unwarranted cancellation where they're trying to shame, bully, intimidate good people into sacrificing their personal beliefs, views, and opinions. I think that's weak. I think that's poor form, right? And where there's other kinds of speech again. So I'd be speaking to the moral compass of a company that I would agree or disagree with. And at that point,
I think the important distinction is conservatives have to be careful. We would consider ourselves politically conservative, socially conservative, in terms of how morally conservative, how we view the world. The distinction and the caution, I guess, is in reaction to what is crazy progressivism and what is crazy insane ideology, drawing lines legally with the power of the government that feel good in the moment and then backfire when your team isn't in the White House or when your team isn't in power. And so we've seen this happen with the public schools. It was conservatives who built public schools. This is a good idea. Let's get education for everybody. No one left behind. Let's make sure all the kids are taken care of. And at the time, the people in power were godly, Christian, biblical moral framework. Let's have prayer in school. Let's teach this, whatever. And Christians at the time that were paying attention were like, whoa, this is not a good idea. You're centralizing too much power here with the government in terms of economically funding this thing. Because once you build it, you got to sustain it. No, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Look, we'll even teach Bible classes and they can do prayer in school. We'll say Pledge of Allegiance. So it sounded like a good idea at a time when the government was conservative. And then, so the conservatives build it, right? And then progressives take it over and wear it like a skin suit. So conservative morality built Disney. Woke ideology takes over this massive machine and then wields it now for evil.
Sure.
All right.
Yes.
Conservative ideology and morals built America.
Yes.
Biblical, Judeo-Christian values built America. And then we in turn built public schools. Christians, conservatives built public schools. And then the woke ideology takes over, wears like a skin suit. And now this massive thing is infrastructure in place that they've taken over and are wielding for evil. And so when I think about the government's role in this situation, it's like, in terms of, like we were saying before we started recording, I'm totally fine with Target being crazy. Whatever. That's their right to do. I think it's stupid. I don't think it makes business sense. And I'm not going to support them with my dollars, but they can do that if they want. That's different than the government telling me I can or can't say something. That's different than the government saying you have to get this vaccine or we're going to fire you.
Yes.
Those are two different things.
Yes.
And so drawing that distinction is important. And then difference between cancel culture and accountability is moral framework, period.
Yeah.
Right.
They're the same thing.
Right.
They're the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like cancel culture was us saying you're wrongly canceling someone for upholding right morals. Accountability is you're rightly been held accountable for ungodly immorality.
Yeah.
And the other piece of that is drawing distinction between what someone is actually saying and the character of what they're saying. If they're being canceled, quote unquote,
Is it based
or
on
held
truth?
accountable, quote unquote, for things they never said and things they never did and positions they don't hold, we get into that in our podcast. That's what's so frustrating. It's like people are trying to paint Charlie Kirk as a racist, as a whatever. No. If you take 15 minutes right now and go online, you can watch him talking with transgender students and furries and wackos.
Yeah.
And he's asking questions. He's listening. He's trying to win them over. He's being gentle and kind and patient. Some he wins over, some leave cussing him out, but he's genuinely caring for them. You get a white woke professor who shows up and starts pushing ideology. He meets them at their level of intensity and responds. And so when we think about cancel culture, it's like, well, what's the moral framework you're working from? Right. And are you working with an accurate picture of what someone actually did or said? Because when you're canceling someone for morality or for immorality based on things they did or didn't say, that's just frustrating. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So for instance, if like they canceled Jimmy Kimmel for things he didn't say, because they characterized him when things weren't accurate, I'd be the first one to defend him. I think he's a slime ball. I'm not a fan of him. I don't think he's funny. I think he takes cheap shots for cheap laughs. Whatever. That's his right to do so. But what I wouldn't be okay with is someone characterizing him or mischaracterizing him,
right?
And then canceling him for that reason. It's like no. That's not how we work as a society.
So and so that's where I would use the categories like cancel culture in general. To me, is like that's illegitimate. Mm-hmm. Those are illegitimate types of things because it's not based on truth or you're trying to smear or slander.
Yeah.
Whereas accountability is legitimate.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that's going to appeal to a debate over a moral framework with that. Yeah. Because I think the category can come into play here too over truth. Right. You brought that up. And then I want to hear what, Kyle's got to add in on this too. But then the other thing is like, I think there are just and unjust issues that come into play here.
Yeah.
Right. Of what is truly true and fair and good and right. But again, that opens it up to the debate and companies can choose to do something. But then I think the free market will correct it in the sense that people can make the choices themselves.
Yeah.
But I think I would say just in the short version, like legitimate categories for why people are fired on the basis of a moral framework that includes things like truth and was that a just or unjust action by the person or by the company?
Yeah. I want to read something here, unless you got something to say.
Go for it.
This is from the American Council. They posted it earlier today. It says, freedom of speech is not freedom from accountability. And this is an Instagram post, the American Council. In America, you can say almost anything without fear of being jailed by the government. That's the beauty of the First Amendment. But free speech does not mean freedom from the consequences of your words in the marketplace, in relationships, or in the public square. The First Amendment protects you from government censorship. It does not protect you from an employer deciding your speech violates their values or from peers responding with criticism. Knowing the difference is key. Freedom of speech is not freedom from accountability. In civil society, words have weight, and reckless speech can cost you opportunities, friendships, or credibility. Liberty always comes paired with responsibility. The Constitution says the government cannot silence you. It does not say your words are without consequence. Free speech may protect your mouth, but it does not protect your job, your reputation, or your influence. Words build or destroy, Proverbs 18:21. The more reckless your words, the heavier the fallout will be. Speech is free, but wisdom will always determine how costly it becomes. The Constitution may protect your mouth, but eternity will judge your heart. Speak truth, speak life.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Helpful.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, very, very helpful. It is interesting though, because it's, what does it take to get, just as an example, what does it take to get arrested by the government for conspiracy to commit a crime?
Mm-hmm.
It takes a certain kind of speech.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So the government is absolutely and does have the right to arrest someone, let's say, on conspiracy to commit some type of act of terrorism or to commit murder or just some like heinous level crime.
Happened in our town this weekend. People saying volatile things online about Christians and leaders and what they're going to do. And they get a visit from the SWAT team.
That's right. And get arrested for it. And that's the government taking action based off of a person's speech.
And if you compel someone to do something, if you give someone directions or orders as well, I'm thinking of a specific case in mind that happened from someone we know down in another state, you know, where this person was kind of the mastermind behind crime. He didn't actually, do the action, but he had the plan.
Yeah.
He launched the plan. He compelled people to do it.
Right.
And he was implicated.
Yeah,
anyway.
totally. So I think it does bring it back, Josh, to your point of just what is the actual moral framework? Right. It's like at the end of the day, are we going to be a Christian nation or not?
That's right.
And at the end of the day, it's like that is what it comes down to.
That's
and
right.
Christianity is going to have a certain moral framework for limitations on speech where you cross over into, okay, now we're in crime category, and the government will respond to that and will take action based on someone's speech. So it's just interesting.
Because there are libel, slander.
To that point,
Right.
your point, Kyle, is you have to have a moral framework to work from. Like the freedom that we have in our nation isn't a carte blanche freedom,
Right.
to do whatever you want. At some point, like you're saying, you cross the line over into immorality and then into crime. So it's not illegal to have an affair,
Right.
to commit adultery. It is illegal to murder
Right.
your wife so you can sleep with someone else.
Right.
And so somewhere the government has made a moral decision on a moral standard that delineates between immorality and crime.
Right.
And what's interesting is I've been thinking about that this week. It's like the discussion we're having in our nation is really, I think, to the point you just made, are we going to be a Christian nation or not?
Yeah.
Because at some point, when you have Islamist extremists standing up and on American soil in the name of free speech, calling for violence against the West.
Right.
It's like, should we let them be doing that?
Right.
I mean, they can say it somewhere else in a different country, but does free speech really mean they can do that? Because if it does, then we're done. Well, like at some point, a moral nation has to have some standard by which they control free speech, so that in the name of free speech, we don't erode the very foundation we're standing on.
That's exactly right. And it's like, it's interesting even that you brought up the example of adultery, because that actually used to be a prosecutable crime in America. That used to be a crime. And we got that from the Bible.
Yes.
Right?
Well, sodomy used to be a crime.
It used to be a crime, right?
And are we better as a nation for moving the line from immorality to crime? Did you talk about who used to be admissible as a witness in court?
Yeah. So there's this crazy footnote. It's a footnote in Tocqueville's Democracy in America, where he tells, and I've got notes on the screen here so I can see it, but it's 1831, and he says, this is a footnote. He says, while he was traveling in America in some county in New York, there was a person brought forth to be a witness in a particular court case, and the judge would not allow him to testify because that witness said that he did not believe in God. And so there was a newspaper that reported on it that said, the Court of Common Pleas of Chester County, New York, a few days since rejected a witness who declared his disbelief in the existence of God. The presiding judge remarked that he had not before been aware that there was a man living who did not believe in the existence of God, that this belief constituted the sanction of all testimony in a court of justice, and that he knew of no case in a Christian country, there it is, there's the moral framework, where a witness had been permitted to testify without such belief.
Wow.
Incredible. So the judge is literally saying, you don't believe in God, we can't trust anything you will say in this courtroom. We have to start somewhere.
Totally. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Incredible.
I mean, that's amazing.
Incredible.
It makes me think of like when someone is sworn in. Place your hand on the Bible. Or that, like, I mean, we're agreeing to a moral foundation.
Yes.
In that act. And is that still happen?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
you still put your hand on the Bible. I mean, our presidents do when they get sworn in as presidents, and you do as a witness.
So is that just tradition, or is that like written in that they have to do that? Because I thought something came up, and again, I haven't done research on this.
Were you finishing your thought? I want to get off track there.
Well, no, I was gonna say to Adam's point, it's like I don't know the specifics of whether or not that's still allowed, but or still required. But there are these rituals built into our society that came from somewhere, and it came from the reality. And Charlie Kirk was a genius at explaining this. It came from the reality that we were a Christian nation, and that the overwhelming common consensus of everybody everywhere was like, yes, let's start there. There's our moral framework.
Yes.
So that's why you do put your hand on the Bible to get sworn in, to give testimony in court. That's why That's why even when the death penalty is being administered to someone, they're being followed up to the gallows by a minister reading Psalm 23.
Yep.
Because we believe that it's possible for that person to repent and be saved even in their last moment, even while we put their body in the earth and administer earthly justice to them, which is good and right to do, because the Bible tells the state to do that.
Yeah, it gives closure to the victims. It's a deterrent for criminals sitting out there. It's a statement to the world that we have standards.
That's right.
We're accountable.
So it's like these rituals, these Christian religious rituals, they came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Because we are a Christian nation.
Yep.
At least that's how we were founded, right?
Well, and Charlie pointed this out so well so many times, it's like, and other people have as well, it is that the Constitution doesn't work in this Constitutional Republic without a moral framework.
Yes.
From the Bible, built into the culture of the people. It doesn't. And so if you give people freedom without the boundaries of a conscience that comes from a morality, that comes from a worldview, that comes from the Word of God, it won't work.
It won't work.
Because they'll take the freedoms afforded them, they'll abuse them, and then they'll use those freedoms to erode the very foundation we're standing on.
So it's to your, I was picking up, connecting the dot there between your 2 points about, is it good for radical, truly extremist Muslims to do that on the street corner.
Yeah.
So could someone say, hey, I'm not going to put my hand on the Bible, I want to use the Quran instead?
I don't think so.
So
I mean they'll try, I would guess, but I don't think it's happened to date.
So but to my point, this isn't choose your own framework. I mean, there would be no order in society.
That's exactly
if
right.
Everyone brought their own morality and said, hey, I can do this, and I'm swearing according to this. Well, if in that system it says that the end justifies the means, and so therefore you can lie to accomplish something that you're trying to accomplish,
why should we listen to you?
An agenda, then it's like, wow, well, what veracity, again, scales of justice, truth, if there's no foundational framework, you literally can't have any order. And so you put your hand on the Bible, not the Quran.
Yes. Yes.
And there's a point there. So
the issue is going to be forced on a cultural level to decide, again, at a conscious level, are we going to be a Christian nation or aren't we?
That's right.
And it feels that we've been kind of hurtling toward the cliff of we're not going to be. Are there brakes being applied currently with the Trump administration aggressively working against? I was in D.C. last week. You guys know Religious Liberty Commission, like actively rooting out blatant anti-discrimination, anti-Christian discrimination in all sectors of society. And the stories are mind-numbing.
Yes.
The stories are mind-numbing. Not just of cultural discrimination against Christianity, but state discrimination against Christianity. And they're uncovering it because what is the state? The state is duly elected officials or bureaucrats they hire who bring into their job a worldview and bring into their job a moral framework and then make decisions based on that personal moral framework using the weight of the government to then adjudicate their personal worldview. And so what they're finding shot through the nation, egregious examples of flagrant, aggressive, objectively measurable anti-Christian discrimination that you realize we're funding because they're using the weight and the resources of the federal government and the state government to discriminate against people who are holding simple, conservative, basic, non-extreme Christian views on marriage and relationships and sexuality. And so thanks be to God for the Trump administration and his team that's rooting that out. They are declared, they're putting a stake in the ground. We are a Christian nation.
That's right.
Now, will it go deep enough and will it hold? That's the question. And that's why I believe we are in an hour when pastors must speak out. Pastors must open the Word of God and connect it to all life in the pulpit. Because here's the mercy of God in this reality. Tyrants die.
Right.
You know what I mean? These people don't live forever. They eventually die of old age or whatever, and what they were promoting, their influence stops, but ideas can live on. And so you have Islamic extremists stand up in New York City this last week saying, what we must attack is the idea of America. Right? Because freedom's an idea.
Yeah.
Right? And freedom can be forgotten.
Right.
Yes.
And so the beauty of what Charlie did was he awakened the memory of freedom in the lives of youth. And man, if you're under 25 and listening, I mean, your life has never mattered more than right now.
Yes.
You got to lean in, you got to read, you got to buckle down, because you're going to be the future sheriffs, police chiefs, elected officials, city council members, mayors, commissioners, governors, presidents, and we need men and women with a biblical framework in those positions of authority. Otherwise, to put it very bluntly, our constitutional republic doesn't work.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. It just doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah, I was just to get.
He's got to go too. So should we wrap it up, or do you want to leave, or you got one more thought?
Yeah, you know, I can bounce out. And you guys can keep going.
If you got one more thought, we can just wrap it right there. If you're good.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna. We have the First Amendment on the screen, right? I was literally just gonna read it and just make this one simple observation. So for the First Amendment, Congress. Okay, keep that in mind. First word of the First Amendment is not "you all get free speech." The first word is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So the fundamental reality of the First Amendment is about what the government cannot do, not about what everyone everywhere can do,
right?
You know, regardless of the consequences thereof, right? In terms of whatever they say, whatever they want to express, whatever they want to do. No, it's not this. It's not just this blanket, no limitations, complete autonomy, say whatever you want anywhere. It's fundamentally about what the government cannot do. Right. So the whole orientation of the First Amendment is putting limits on the government, not giving no limit, not taking away limits from all people everywhere.
Right. Yep.
Right.
And I think, you know, we would say, I may disagree with what you say, but I would argue and defend for your right to say it. In one sense, that's very, very true.
Yes.
And it's like, I've got no problem with Jimmy Kimmel believing caricatures of Charlie that aren't true.
Right.
And when someone buys into those, it's because they want to buy into them and because they fundamentally disagree with Charlie. So it's disingenuous, it's dishonest. Why not just state what he really said and then make a counterpoint argument with your worldview?
Right.
It's the cheap way out to create a straw man, a red herring, and then shoot at it as if you're morally superior. That's lame.
Right.
I've got no problem with Jimmy Kimmel saying whatever he wants whenever he wants. I also have no problem in a free market capitalist society for them to assess that culture is not eating that up right now, and so you're gone. And so it is a message to the culture. It's like, what's upstream? What's further upstream?
Yes.
Politics or business, right? Or is it culture?
Yeah.
Or is it the church? Or is it the family? Or is it you, individual men and women who are growing in their knowledge of the Word of God, how the world works, the Constitution, making decisions with your dollars.
Yeah, there it is.
And then people picking up on that and shifting.
Yeah.
And so like the groundswell of response of people who loved the same Jesus that Charlie loved globally sent a signal to Disney ABC. We better rein this in a little bit, that people aren't eating it up like they used to. Right? Because Jimmy Kimmel was saying just as inflammatory, stupid things during COVID and during BLM marches and during George Floyd stuff, as he just did there. Things just shifted and he missed it.
Yes.
Right. And that's how it works.
And his employer has every right to fire him.
That's right.
And that's not a violation of of Jimmy's free speech.
No.
Freedom to speak is not freedom from consequences,
Right.
especially in the realm of the free market, right?
Yep.
So that's part of a lot of people get mixed up too. Is freedom to is freedom from, and so it's like the freedom of religion is not the same thing as freedom from religion. So I can ban you from praying because I don't want to be near it and around it. Well, that's not your freedom actually.
Yeah, right.
You know, so there's all kinds of ways that we misunderstand the First Amendment in terms of the role of government, but then also what those freedoms actually afford and mean when applied for individual citizens and the free market.
Yep, that's right. The sticky conversation we won't get into now, but we got to wrap up. But it is a question of when you see people saying things that are categorically false, like Charlie Kirk is a fascist, like Donald Trump is Hitler, and they're using these labels that are inaccurate and loaded to apply to people as a way to smear them should that be allowed? Should that be legal? Because what we're seeing is it's resulting in very real consequences.
Yes.
Because morally, if someone was a Hitler, I mean, we go back to Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and it's like he's like wrestling with how to respond to the rise of Hitler.
The actual Hitler.
I mean? The actual Hitler. Yes, thank you. The actual Adolf Hitler. Yeah. Trying to figure out how to respond to the rise of Adolf Hitler to power, and speaking out and speaking louder and writing things. And what we're saying is, in the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, we have this theologically oriented Christian man who went from a position of passivism, migrating all the way to a position of, I think we need to assassinate Hitler, all within not like 8 lifetimes, all within a few years as a Christian man. And so the question becomes, like, at what point does it become necessary for a Christian man to consider violence against another man who is doing evil on society? And so that's the ethical question, the philosophical question, the very real question that's being asked. And then you translate it to today, where they're taking the name of Hitler that we would agree with in the actual Hitler was an evil man that warranted stopping whatever the cost. And we proved it as a nation by spending hundreds of billions of dollars and costing us hundreds of thousands of lives to stop the evil that was the reality of the real Adolf Hitler. But if you're taking his name and applying it to anyone you disagree with, if we're living in a logical world and with consequences, then it would make sense. Well, if Trump is Hitler, or if Charlie Kirk is Hitler, or if XYZ is Hitler, I have a moral responsibility to do something about it, which is what we saw happen with Charlie Kirk last week. And so that's the question of, at what point does the government have an obligation as a Christian nation to step in and go, because we have libel laws on the record. Like, you can't just walk around saying anything. I mean, I've had multiple attorneys tell me I have grounds for libel lawsuits against bloggers and people online in my hometown. Right? Because of what they said that are blatant lies, because of things they're inferring, and because of conversations they start where I have grounds to sue their pants off, and it would be upheld in a court of law. And so it's like, so we have those laws in the books.
And it comes back to moral framework. Those laws derive from, again, America, Christian nation, they derive from the 9th commandment.
Yes.
Thou shalt not lie.
You shall not
bear false witness.
Specifically bear false witness against your neighbor. Right? So Christianity has as one of its principles,
top 10 laws
in the foundation. In the moral framework foundation.
That's good.
You can't do that.
It speaks to speech. And a kind of speech that crosses a line that should not be allowed.
Legally.
As like to uphold a just and good and thriving social order.
Well, because to your point earlier, there are things that are illegal to say. And that are probable cause grounds for arrest and prosecution before you actually did anything.
And the
making threats, of violence, these kind of things.
I'm thinking back to series, sermons you've preached on the role of government. From a biblical perspective, the job of the government. This is partly of, like, in our society, we need to regain the right responsibilities from the right jurisdictions, the right institutions being responsible and doing the right things. But government, one of its primary only, one of its 2 jobs, is to punish evil. Right? Is to punish those who do wrong. So there has to be a moral framework that's defining evil and wrong. And then there are good and right actions taken against what is truly deemed evil and wrong. And so, to your point, like, the actual Hitler was righteously stopped, but when that's just being abused and thrown around, I mean, my goodness, that creates a very dangerous situation for everybody.
It's counterfeit justice. It's calling good evil and evil good, which locating the person that needs to be held accountable in the wrong place.
Which interesting. I don't know if we have time to get in this. This is one of the counter arguments.
You're the one's got to go.
I do. This is one of the counter arguments that's been used against is the case that says, when you call a group of people fascist, racist, bigots, and you label them these things, that could be inciting actual actions of harm and violence. And the counter one that I've heard, curious to hear your guys' thought, is, well, you Christians do the same thing when you call people evil. and demonic. And there's a lack of understanding of spiritual forces and factors that are behind actions that take place, and the categories that are good to use of evil and demonic and right and wrong that are different than the other labels that get applied and thrown across society. So I don't know if that any thoughts to add in on that. The counter is, well, how is it you're not inciting violence for calling certain things evil?
Yeah. It comes back to moral framework. What kind of nation are we? Have we been? Are we going to be? Right? Like, what is the standard for this? This is actually evil, and should be labeled evil, versus that's a slanderous lie, and is untrue. Right? Categorically untrue. So I think it just comes down to
truth.
It comes down to truth, right? And is that's the thing, right? Is it's the intrinsic in America's founding documents is the presupposition that God is there, right? It's the presupposition that there is a God, and so it's not giving complete and total unlimited power to every individual person, and it's not giving complete and total unlimited power, my goodness, to the government. No, certainly not. It's recognizing that there is only one who sits in that ultimate seat of power. And so then the Constitution is then written from the presupposition of that starting place that then results in a Christian moral framework I think it was John Adams who and many of the founders echoed that same sentiment of like, this really is, and it's to your point, right? This really is only going to work if we have a virtuous people, right?
That's right. That's right.
Otherwise it's just words on a page, and they can be twisted to mean whatever anybody wants to make them mean based off their starting point. So it's like, what is the starting point? What is an
objective standard?
Yep, that's right.
Objective moral standard.
That's right.
Which we would say is the word of God.
So
there is, good is good and evil is evil. And when you get those twisted, when you call good
for the
evil,
record,
evil
I've been
good.
trying to end this podcast for 15 minutes because you have to go. So
yeah,
good chat, good conversation. More to come. Bye. Hey everyone, Pastor Josh here. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate the podcast, review, follow, and share. And if you want to support Stronger Man Nation, you can go to strongermannation.com/give to help keep unwoke, uncensored, straight talk Bible teaching coming to you for free.